Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 1174th regular meeting and public hearing of the Livonia City Planning Commission. I wish to inform all interested persons in our audience that for petitions on tonight's agenda, which involve a question of zoning, the Planning Commission will make recommendations to City Council, and the City Council, after holding their own public hearing, will make the final determination as to whether the petition is approved or denied. The Planning Commission will hold the only public hearing on requests for preliminary plats and or vacating petitions, and the Commission's recommendation is forwarded to City Council for a final determination as to whether the petition is accepted or rejected. If a petition requesting a waiver of use or a site plan is denied tonight, the petitioner will have 10 days in which to appeal the decision in writing to City Council. Resolutions which are adopted by the City Planning Commission will become effective 7 days after the date of adoption. The Planning Commission and professional staff have reviewed each of these petitions upon their filing. The staff has furnished the Commission with both approving and denying resolutions, which the Commission may or may not use depending on the outcome of the proceedings tonight. If our Secretary is ready, please call the roll.
Mrs. Smiley.
Present.
Mrs. McHugh.
Present.
Mr. Bonjero.
Here.
Mr. Long.
Here.
Mr. Ventura.
Is here.
Caremagno is here. Chairman Wolshaw.
Is here. Thank you. And also with us tonight, we have Mark Toromina and Stephanie Reese from our Planning Department. For the folks in our audience, the format of our meeting will be that we'll start with each of the items on our agenda by reading out the petition that's before us, and our planning staff will give some background information on that petition. We will then have an opportunity to ask questions of our planning staff. We'll then ask that the petitioner come forward and speak to the item and answer some questions for us, tell us about their petition. And then we'll also have an opportunity for anyone in our audience who wishes to speak for or against the item to also come forward and speak to us. Once we hear from everybody, we'll make our decision and we'll go to our next item. And we do have a number of folks in our audience, so when you do come up, if we ask that you do try to keep your comments to the point, and so that everybody else has an opportunity to be heard as well tonight. And with that, if there is nothing else, nope, I think we're all set to go on to item number 1 of our public hearing section.
Petition 2021-07-01-06 submitted by Lag Development pursuant to section 23.01 of the City of Livonia zoning ordinance number 543 as amended, requesting to rezone the property 34801 Plymouth Road, located on the south side of Plymouth Road between Stark and Wayne Roads in the northwest quarter of section 33 from C1 local business to C2 general business.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Mr. Toromina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, this is a request to rezone property from C1 local business to C2 general business, and the property is on the south side of Plymouth Road. It's between Wayne Road and Laurel Avenue. The size of the property is roughly 0.6 of an acre. It includes 173 feet of frontage on Plymouth Road, parcel depth of 147 feet. This is the former Doughboy Donut Shop. The existing building on this property measures approximately 2,150 square feet. It was originally built as a gas station and then was converted to a donut shop in 1975. As you can see from this zoning map, the site is surrounded by commercial land uses. To the east and to the south is the LaFontaine Hyundai of Livonia Auto Dealership. This was formerly Ralph Thayer. To the west is a Burger King as well as a Dunkin' Donuts restaurant. The site was recently acquired by LAG of Livonia LLC, which is part of the LaFontaine Auto Group. The objective is to expand the dealership operations, presumably for vehicle display purposes. If the zoning is approved, then the existing building, as we understand it, would be demolished. The use of the property for the storage and display of vehicles in connection with the dealership operation will require waiver use approval. So if this rezoning petition moves forward, the second step in the process would be to file a waiver use application for the use of the property for auto dealership purposes. The Livonia Vision 21 future land use map does show the subject area as corridor commercial, so the site is suitable for the proposed rezoning and use. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'll read out the few items of correspondence.
Yes, please.
First is a letter from the Office of the Treasurer dated July 21st, indicating that they have no objections to the proposal. This is signed by Linda Shield, Treasurer of the city. Next is a letter from the Department of Finance dated July 28th that reads, I have reviewed the address connected with the above noted petition. The following amounts are due to the city of Livonia: unpaid water and sewer charges past due as of July 19th, 2021, $85.29. Total due to the city, $85.29. And that letter is signed by Connie Cumpula, Chief Accountant for the city. And lastly, we have a letter from our engineering division dated July 20th that reads, in accordance with your request, the engineering division has reviewed the above referenced petition. We have no objections to the proposed rezoning at this time. The subject parcel is assigned the address of 34801 Plymouth Road. The existing building is currently serviced by public water main and sanitary sewer. Should the owner wish to redevelop the site, there is public storm sewer available to the site. However, the developer may need to cross Plymouth Road to tie into the system. The developer will need to meet current engineering requirements for the proposed project, including stormwater detention per the Wayne County Stormwater Ordinance. It should be noted that the developer may be required to obtain a permit from the Michigan Department of Transportation should any work occur within the Plymouth Road right-of-way. And that letter is signed by David Lear, Assistant City Engineer, and that is the extent of the correspondence. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tormina. Is there any questions for our planning staff? I don't see any questions. Our petitioner, I believe, is in the audience. You're welcome to come forward to the podium and introduce yourself. I'll ask you to start with your name and address, please.
Hello, my name is Taylor Lynn with LaFontaine Automotive Group. Our address is 4000 West Highland Road, Highland, Michigan 48357. Bear with me here, guys. I'm a little nervous. This is my first time speaking for LaFontaine. So we, as you guys know, we recently acquired the Thayer Group dealerships. The donut shop owner had approached us and making an offer, and we had thought it would be a good idea. You know, it could potentially complement the rest of the properties. As you guys know, it's the only C1 zoning on the strip, with everything surrounding it being C2. We currently have no plans for the building at the moment. We would be using the parcel for inventory parking, and we have plans to take down the donut shop sign, increase landscaping, restripe the lot. We have already removed some of the weeds on the site. We are willing to install a brick pier wrought iron wall as well. And regarding it being previously being a gas station, we had done extensive environmental studies. There's no environmental concerns, and there is currently no underground storage tanks. I did also want to address that the monies that are due to the city have been paid since July.
Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Lynn. We appreciate your presentation. And just for our, everyone's benefit, this is a rezoning request from the C1 to C2. So most of the discussion tonight is going to focus on the zoning and if that use is appropriate. You will have to come back, of course, as you know, for a site plan or waiver use if that's approved. So we'll possibly get more into the details of the layout of parking and so on at that stage. So just want to set everyone's expectations, but we may have some questions regarding the use of the property, so we'll see how things go. Is there any questions for our petitioner from any of our commissioners? Mr. Long.
I wanted to be clear, I'm not sure I understood properly. Is the building staying or is the building coming down?
At the moment, we don't have any plans for it. It could potentially be demolished in the future, or we could repurpose it. But at the moment, we're unsure what we'd be doing. It would remain standing as is.
Okay. And so if we rezone it, obviously they've got to come back with a site plan down the road, and we'll have an idea of what the disposition of the building will be at that time, correct, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, I believe their intended use would require a waiver use. Is that correct, Mr. Tormey?
That is correct.
So yeah, they would have to come back for that. We could get into the details at that stage.
Okay, that's fine. I won't take this any further then. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Mr. Long. Any other questions from any of our commissioners?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Caremagno.
I heard you're gonna make some improvements to the property if this goes through, and I think that's obviously a good thing. I noticed the fencing along the Burger King western side of the property, some of it's been knocked down and in disrepair. What's the plan for that to maintain your current property? What's the
Oh.
plan there?
Yeah, absolutely. If we want to make the site presentable, and obviously if there was any, with the fencing issue being potentially in disrepair, we would go ahead and correct that.
Fix it all at the same time?
Yes.
It looks like somebody maybe drove through that. I don't know if somebody got wild in the Burger King parking lot or something. Looks like somebody drove right through the fence.
Maybe.
Okay, thank you. You'll take care of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Could have been one heck of a test drive there.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions for our petitioner? From any of our commissioners? I don't see any. Is there anyone in our audience wishing to speak to this item? You can come forward and we'll let you speak. Thank you, Ms. Lynn. Good evening, sir.
Hello, folks. My name is James Arnold. I live at 11205 Laurel. I have 288 length of frontage. I live right behind the 34803. Basically, that is a dump right there. The Thayer Group got it from Altansky, which Altansky put a commercial wall in and put arborvitae's all the way around it, and it's terrible. Like Sam was saying, or I don't know how you say her last name.
Carabagno, no, it's okay.
There are 9 sections of fence down in 3408, 9 sections of fence that are tore up. And it looks pretty bad. There is a pile of tires that's probably 40 feet wide, 30 feet deep, and probably 10 feet tall. There is 2 coaxial cables, one that's on my property, 11205 in the very south, or the very northeastern corner. And there is one down in the Burger King parking lot that goes across the parking lot and wraps around, coaxial cable, probably like the cable, that kind of stuff. It's not power, so. The grass is unkept. They've just purchased this property. I understand they're starting, but they basically weed whacked a little bit and tore a little bit out compared to what hasn't been done in the last 20 years. And so I do give them commendament to do that, you know. There's probably hundreds of feet that are overgrown of property line. I only own 200 feet, 300 feet, but it's just overgrown. I walked the whole thing looking at it. There's metal boxes in the back on 34803, metal boxes, fencing. It's on the commercial wall. The cap is basically tore off on the commercial wall. So there's quite a lot of upkeep to get this place up before you can even think about, you know, God says you got to take care of what I give you before I can give you more. There's mulch that they've just basically piled, and there's a pile of cement that they've tore out and just piled. So if I live that way, I know you guys would be knocking on my door saying, pick it up, please. So that's all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Arnold. We appreciate that. Is there anyone else in our audience who wishes to speak for or against this petition? And good evening, sir.
Matt Schabla from LaFontaine Automotive Group. We're working on all these issues. We already mowed the grass by the Burger King. We know that the gate's in disarray. We have got a bunch of junk. A 40-yard dumpster was delivered today, so we're in the project of throwing all the stuff that's just accumulated over years and getting the all the pavement done, all that cleaned up, the trees trimmed, all the brush picked up. I mean, we're working on all of this stuff. We literally just took ownership of that facility and this current facility. So we're working on cleaning and addressing all of his issues. I have my card here, sir. I can give it to you, and anything you see, you can reach out to me directly.
Great, thank you.
Address any of those concerns we take care of, okay?
All right, excellent. Well, we appreciate those comments. And,
Anything, excuse me.
go ahead.
Yeah, anything, you know, any of the neighbors need, we want to reach out to the neighbors, and we're working on all that stuff. It's only been 40, 45 days, so it's a work in progress, and we've been improving. Obviously, we started on the front, you know, if you've driven by on Plymouth Road, we've trimmed up all that brush, done a bunch of landscaping and wood chips and everything up front, and we're working our way back. So we're working on it, sir, and anybody else that has any concerns, we're working on landscaping extensively in all departments and every facility we have, including, you know, obviously the rezoning one, so.
Sure. Thank you, sir. Appreciate your comments.
I have a question.
We do have a
Sir?
question
Yep.
from Mrs. Smiley. Mrs. Smiley, go ahead.
Yes, first of all, thank you. And then, secondly, did you talk to the PRDA? Is that where you got your landscape, ideas from, the Plymouth, Road development?
We have not talked to them yet. It was brought up, obviously, in last week's meeting. We made note of it with LAG Development, so.
But I heard her talk about the, wrought iron fences and what you're doing in front. I just wondered. Okay, thank you.
Yep, no problem.
Thanks.
Great, thank you. All right, anyone else in our audience wishing to speak to this item? If not, we always give our petitioner the last word. Is there anything else, Ms. Lynn, that you wanted to mention? You're good? All right. If there's no other questions or comments, I can close the public hearing at this time. I'll go to my commissioners and ask for a motion.
Mr. Chair.
Mrs. McHugh.
I'd like to offer an approving resolution that the request to rezone the property at 34801 Plymouth Road from C1 to C2 is hereby approved, subject to City Council approval for the following reasons. That the change of zoning to C2 general business is compatible to and in harmony with the surrounding land uses and zoning districts in the area. That the proposed change of zoning will allow the property owner to seek waiver use approval to utilize the property for storage and display of vehicles in connection with an automotive dealership operation. And number three, that the proposed change of zoning is consistent with the developing character of the area. Number four, that the proposed change of zoning represents a reasonable and logical zoning plan for the subject property, which adheres to the principles of sound land use and use planning. And number five, that the proposed change of zoning is supported by the Livonia Vision 21, LV 21 future land use map, which shows the subject area of the rezoning as corridor commercial.
Is there support for that motion?
Support. Lots of support.
I'll defer to Ms. Smiley.
All right, we have support from Mrs. Smiley. Thank you, Mr. Ventura. We have a motion to approve by Mrs. McHugh, supported by Mrs. Smiley. Is there any discussion on the motion? If there is none, if our secretary is ready, call the roll.
Mrs. McHugh.
Aye.
Mrs. Smiley.
Aye.
Mr. Bonjero.
Aye.
Mr. Long.
Aye.
Mr. Ventura. Aye. Caremagna votes aye. Chairman Wilshaw.
Votes aye, and the motion is passed. That will go on to City Council with an approving recommendation, and we'll see you back for the waiver use, and we can talk about some of the other details about, that we've discussed tonight, including looking at your existing site and see what kind of work you can do to remediate some of those issues. So we appreciate that. Thank you for coming tonight. And we'll move on to item number 2 on our agenda.
Petition 2021-07-02-11, submitted by the Animal Care Clinic of Livonia, requesting waiver use approval pursuant to Section 11.03B of the City of Livonia zoning ordinance number 543 as amended, to expand the existing veterinary clinic at 28450 Joy Road, located on the northwest corner of Joy and Harrison Avenue, in the southwest quarter of Section 36.
Thank you, Mr. Caremagno. Mr. Tormina.
Thank you. Again, this is a request to expand an existing veterinary clinic that is at the corner of Joy and Harrison Avenue. The zoning of this property is C2 general business. The property is roughly a half an acre in size. It has 93 feet of frontage along Joy Road by a depth of 250 feet. The existing building on the property measures roughly 2,070 square feet It is located on the south part of the site. The northerly portion of the property is currently undeveloped and maintained as an open grass field. In 2016, this site received waiver use approval for the operation of Animal Care Clinic of Livonia. The structure on this property was originally built in 1956 as a drugstore. It was called Beck's Drugs, and the building was later converted to a laundromat and cleaners, and then a coin laundry in the late 70s before sitting vacant for several years. Veterinary clinics are treated as a waiver use under section 11.03B of the zoning ordinance. The proposed addition would be to the west side of the building. And just to familiarize everyone with this plan, so the drawing on the left-hand side is, represents the existing conditions. This is the existing building on the property, and then the drawing on the right-hand side is the proposed site plan with the expanded building and parking areas. So the existing building on the site would be expanded by about 1,236 square feet. Again, that addition would be on the west side. This would bring the gross floor area of the structure up to a total of 3,306 square feet. The addition would provide for additional exam rooms as well as a surgery room, a reception and waiting area, as well as a laboratory, and then some indoor kennels. The required setback for buildings in a C2 zoning district is 60 feet. However, the existing building is at the property line along Joy Road, essentially resulting in a zero setback. The addition, as you can see from the plan on the right, would continue along this same line with no offsets. And since the existing setback is non-conforming as well as a proposed building addition setback, it will require a variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals. The setback of 15 feet is required along the rear of the building where the site abuts residential. Both the existing building and the addition would have a setback of roughly 172 feet. So all of the other setbacks on the site would remain either as is or conforming. The expanded building is going to require a total of 14 parking spaces. Currently, the site has 12 spaces. The site plan does show that the rear parking lot would be extended north, providing for a total of 18 parking spaces. Most of all of the parking spaces on the site, all except for 2, which are adjacent to the east side of the building, would be located behind the building. Where the site abuts residential to the north, the ordinance requires a 5 to 7 foot high masonry wall. Currently, there is a 6 foot high white vinyl privacy fence located at the rear property line. And at the closest point, the expanded parking lot would be roughly 60 feet adjacent to this residential district. There is some discussion, as I understand it, relative to the location of the dumpster. The plan shows the dumpster being shifted slightly west on the property to accommodate the addition, but it's my understanding, again, that the discussion at the study meeting would see this dumpster relocated to another area of the parking lot. We do not have plans showing how that would be accomplished. We do note, however, that it's important that whatever is done to this dumpster, that it be properly screened, as well as containing a solid metal or composite panel gate. Some new landscaping would be provided within the parking lot area. This would be in the form of 2 narrow landscape islands. These 4 foot wide strips on either side of the parking lot would be planted with shrubs, and then the rest of the site's landscaping, which is basically grass, would remain as is. In terms of the building design itself, it's really intended to complement the existing building. As you can see from these plans, there's a single parapet and cornice with a central feature that would extend across the entire building and a few feet above the existing roof line. The exterior finishes here include a combination of stone veneer and ephes, similar to what exists currently. The north and west elevations would be covered with ephes, again, similar to what's on the existing building. I will point out, however, one issue that I'd like addressed this evening with respect to the architecture, and that's this parapet along the front of the building. We note that the parapet is braced here, and you can see this, and I'll zoom in on the area. If you just give me a second here. This bracing becomes highly visible from the road as well as the back of this parapet, especially along the side street. And we'd like that addressed either by raising the parapet above that area to conceal it, or some type of material that would be complementary to the design of the building to conceal that bracing and the backside of that central parapet feature.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Taormina. Is there any correspondence on this item?
Yes, thank you. We have our first letter from our engineering division dated July 15th, and it reads, in accordance with your request, the engineering division has reviewed the above referenced petition. We have no objections to the proposed waiver use at this time. The proposed project parcel is assigned the address of 28450 Joy Road. The existing building is currently serviced by public water main and sanitary sewer. There is public storm sewer available to the site. Excuse me. However, the developer may need to cross Harrison Road to tie into the system. The developer will need to meet current engineering requirements for the proposed project, including stormwater detention. Per the Wayne County Stormwater Ordinance, we do not believe there will be any impacts to the existing systems. It should be noted that the developer may be required to obtain a permit from the Wayne County Department of Public Service should any work occur within the Joy Road right-of-way. That letter is signed by David Lear, Assistant City Engineer. Next is a letter from the Livonia Fire and Rescue dated July 15th, indicating that they have no objections to the proposal. That letter is signed by the Fire Marshal, Greg Thomas. Similar letter of no objection coming from the Division of Police Traffic Bureau dated July 15th and signed by Scott Shapansky, Sergeant. And a letter of no objection from our Department of Finance dated July 19th and signed by Connie Cumpula. A letter of no objection as well from the Office of the Treasurer dated July 21st and signed by Linda Shield, Treasurer of the City of Livonia. And then lastly, the city received an email correspondence from an Anita, and it reads, it's dated August 2nd, and it reads, Animal Care Clinic wants to expand their existing veterinary clinic located at 28450 Joy Road. I think this is wonderful. I live very close to the clinic, and I take my dog there to be cared for. The doctor and the staff are great, and their hours of operation are very generous to those of us who work during the day. They always seem to be very busy. I fully support the expansion of Animal Care Clinic, and I hope this expansion is granted. Sincerely, Anita Shiplet.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Taormina.
Excuse me.
Is there any questions from Ms. Smiley?
Just one. You referred to the parapet up there and the brace for that. Is there mechanical equipment up on the roof, or where's that?
You know, it's not shown on the plans, any mechanical equipment. That's usually addressed in the resolution,
okay.
that it be concealed. Go to the aerial photographs, and I think Mr. Ventura probably can reference whether or not any of that's visible. That's what you were going to refer to.
Mr. Ventura?
There's currently a condenser that's on the ground
Oh,
behind the
okay.
building. And I guess it would be interesting to have petitioner clarify that that will remain so that we don't have a issue with rooftop units. But today it's on the ground behind the building.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both. Any other questions for our planning staff? If not, for the petitioners in the audience, please come forward. And will you ask that you start with your name and address? Good evening, sir.
Just, I don't want, I'm Ariski Mikal, the architect of the professional consulting company located in Detroit.
Okay.
I'm the designer. Just, I don't want to talk about what was said, but I would like to discuss what we talked about.
Can you speak up, sir?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Just, I don't want to discuss about the project, but I would like to discuss about the point raised last pre-hearing, which are the relocation of the dumpster. If you look here.
Sorry, but we cannot hear you unless you have to be at the mic.
Yeah, if you wanna,
And we don't know.
Hold it,
the
that'd be
name,
great.
address?
For relocated, the dumpster enclosure was here in this area. It was relocated to the north to facilitate the maneuvering safely of the waste truck, which is going forward and move back and leave easily. And the second point is we are talking about the Greenbelt. I talked to the owner, and he said they got, was the fence, the white vinyl fence was in agreement of the last petition, I think, of 2016. The owner, the building has before a Greenbelt, and it was removed by the request of the owner of the residential area over here. That's why, just I try to provide another Greenbelt, but once I talked to the owner, he said it was there. We removed it by the request of the, it was, I think, part of the agreement of the last petition. The third point, I think raised by one of the, is the power line, which is along the Joy Road. We are not expanding vertically, but we are expanding horizontally, which is, there's no problem, I think. And I have here with me the electrical, our senior engineer. He want, if you want more detail about it, because there's a safe distance between the line and the building, which is 15 feet, which is required, which is it remains the same, even we expand horizontally, not vertically. Also, I think I have to mention one thing: is that all the setbacks were remain only on the west area, which is decreased from 35.5 feet to 17 feet, and all the requirement of the Michigan Building Code and city ordinance are compliant with our project. If you have any question, I'm ready to answer.
okay.
So I didn't submit this plan. I revised it, the power outage for almost 3 days or 4 days. I couldn't proceed with that.
Okay,
Mr. Chair?
sure. Your name is Mr. Khan, right?
Ariski.
Okay, very good, thank you, sir. Ms.
You
Smith?
can take your mask off. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
And then, I didn't get your name and address. You said it's Mr. Khan?
No, Ariski Mikaldi, sorry.
Okay, and you gave us your address? for
The
record?
address is 19760 West Warren in Detroit, Michigan.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions for our petitioner's representative, Mr. Bonjero?
Just to be clear, I couldn't really see it. You're gonna take the dumpster from its current location,
Session
you're sticking it like in the backyard?
Yes.
Along the street, closer to the side
to the
street?
side street, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I couldn't really tell, but I kinda made.
It's roughly the location of where this north arrow
Okay,
is
yeah,
shown.
yeah, that makes sense. Which is what Mr. Ventura was talking about. Yes, I see it, yeah.
Just facilitate the maneuver.
I got it, yep, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bonjero. Any other questions for our petitioner's representative?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Caremagna?
maybe this is more for Mark. Mark, how often do we put a dumpster right next to the sidewalk on a commercial property?
Not often. You know, that's one thing when we look at these site plans, we try to conceal them as much as possible. You know, they're enclosed on all 4 sides, 3 sides by masonry, and then the gates. You know, ideally, they're in an area on the site that is not as visible, but it's difficult, obviously, on this corner property to achieve that. So even if you shift it further to the west, you know, I understand what they're trying to accomplish here. It makes access much easier for to do the pickup, right? Because then they can just back up to the straight up and straight back to get to the approach to go back out on the side street. So It becomes a little more challenging if it's anywhere further to the west on the property. It doesn't mean it's impossible, but, you know, ideally, we would move it a little bit west on the property.
I really, you know, I know, understand that the access is important, and it is to be safe and to be reasonable, but, man, I just don't like that dumpster right next to the sidewalk. I don't care for that at all, even if he's gotta put more parking lot back there, another 10 or 12 feet of parking lot to make that thing accessible to turn. I just don't care for an enclosure right next to that sidewalk, not at all.
Yeah, what we would typically look to do in a case like this, where there's very little or no option, is provide additional landscaping around, in that area, around the enclosure.
There's an idea.
And if it could be moved a little bit further to the west, that would even be better. But you're right, they're gonna have to create an apron no matter what, for the pad, for the dumpster, because you need vehicles, in those, parking spaces to be able to safely, back up.
Sure, sure. I have a couple other things written down here. When I drove around the back of the building, I noticed the gas meter, the guard's broken off the wall
Yes.
and laying on the ground, and I don't know what that material is on the wall there, but it looks like it's never been finished. What is the plan for that? Is that EFS or whatever that is?
It's an AFS, yeah, I think,
How come that was never finished back there?
because I think they have to remove the gas meter and finish the wall and put it back, but they didn't do it yet. But we'll take care of it in the future. This is the.
I think if nothing else, that guard has to go back up over that meter. I mean, it's serving no purpose at all now. It's there for a reason, obviously, but that doesn't look very nice at all. The other thing that I've got is there's a couple big trees in the backyard. They may not be on your property,
It's not in our property.
but they're gonna impact your parking lot, it looks like.
No, they don't impact our parking lot, no.
Mark, you got an overhead picture of that? Them branches, the
next
ones laying
property.
right out in the field.
Very well. You serious back here?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a branch that's sitting probably a foot and a half off the ground, it goes right into where that parking lot's just about going to be. You might have to look at that with a neighbor. If it's not his tree, you might have to look at it with the neighbor,
Okay,
figure out something to do there.
okay.
Thank you, Mr. Caremagna. Any other questions for our petitioner?
I do.
Ms. Smiley?
That fence in the backyard, we had a question about that last week, didn't we?
Yes.
Mark, is it okay, that fence that goes into the neighborhood?
No, it's fine. I think, it can be maintained. I would have to go back and take a look at the, previous, approvals involving this property, to see if there was either a variance, an agreement with the neighbor, or some other, means by which that fence was approved in lieu of the wall. I honestly don't know. I don't have that information in front of me. Sometimes there's an easement, and overhead lines that prevent a wall from being, built right at the property line, so the fence is sometimes a better option. But we'll go back and take a look at that. Council will have to effectively, by approving this plan, endorse the continuation of that offense. Whether or not it would have to go back to the zoning board of appeals, I don't know the answer to that. I don't believe it would have to necessarily.
Okay, and they mentioned the hours of operation. We
From-
don't happen to know those, do we?
The hours of operation from 9 to 7, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m.
And
There's
like
no stay
Monday to Friday, or
overnight,
all, every day?
It's Monday to Friday, yeah.
Yeah, okay,
There is no overnight stay
Okay.
needed.
good.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you,
All
Mr.
right,
Chair.
thank you, Ms. Smiley. Any other questions? Mr. Bonjero?
Just one, not to beat the dumpster issue, you know, but now the dumpster is out of the enclosure.
Okay.
And it's like, it's almost a straight shot if you were to take that driveway and drive straight back behind
Yes.
the building. Maybe the enclosure could go back there. It's kind of a natural for the truck to drive straight at it.
Yeah.
Sam, would that work? You know what I'm saying? Because they've got the dumpster out of the enclosure now, because obviously they can't navigate that turn where the enclosure is now. So it's outside of the dumpster, about where Mark's cursor is right there. So that's what I was saying, why don't they just put the enclosure right there? That's away from the residential, and it's kind of right where it was, do you know what I mean? If that works for you guys, might lose one parking spot, you could probably gain it in the backyard.
Okay. Okay, we can do that, yeah.
I do believe they are over on parking by at least a space or two.
The required is 17 parking space, but we provided 20
Right.
for any additional employee or customers.
If I could respond to that
Mr. Tormey?
suggestion. So this area would appear not to be landscaped. Let's assume for the sake of discussion, I think what you're suggesting is that maybe the dumpster be placed somewhere over here.
Yeah, that's where it is.
There's 22 feet currently shown on the plan between the parking space and the edge of this striped area. That's enough room for a car to safely back up without hitting the dumpster, or it could even be placed somewhere, you know, further back here. If it's angled, it makes it easier for a vehicle, I would think, to come in. The problem then is how do they back out? Or if they do this at certain times of the day where there's no cars parked in the back, then it's not an issue. And I know that oftentimes, you know, they try to accomplish the pickups when there's, you know, during non-business hours, but I don't know what the, if that would work in this case or not.
There is another option if you continue the same idea. We can remove the two parking spaces, the 17 and the I think this, no, the close to the property line. We can remove the two, and we can have more space to maneuver the waste truck, back up and leave easily. I think it's maybe goes with his idea.
Are you all set, Mr. Bonjero?
Yeah, I'm good with that. Yeah, I just think it's a better solution than having it down by the street, per Mr. Caramagno's concern too. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ventura?
We are gonna beat this to death. When I was there last Tuesday morning, there were 17 cars parked around this building. Your client's business is going gangbusters, and the letter that we got commending their operation is certainly right on. So, Mr. Bonjero, where you're suggesting that they put the dumpster enclosure was all parked up with cars. And there were 17 cars there then.
Yeah,
okay,
right. I
Without
saw them too.
the addition,
Mhm.
some of which were in the street. So, I'll suggest that we need more than 18-car parking, all right? And we do need a solution to the dumpster, but I'd just as soon rely on Mr. Tormina and the staff to come up with a solution that works.
Yeah.
Sam, to address your concerns from a landscaping standpoint, but also one that functions and gets the actual dumpster enclosure with a dumpster in it instead of sitting on the ground, so. And I also note that, in the approving resolution, Article 13 addresses the fence. Or the wall. If we were to approve this evening, Mr. Tormina, would we leave it in there or take it out?
I haven't heard any residents, you know, suggest that a wall is needed there, so.
So we- it'll get
So
addressed at
you can
council.
remove that condition and let council address it in their final resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ventura. Any other discussion? Mrs. McHugh?
Just one more piece on
Sure.
the dumpster. Just to back up what Mr. Ventura said, you were there at 5 o'clock in the or no, you were there at 10.
I was there at 10 o'clock in the morning.
I was
yeah.
there at like 5:15,
Okay.
same amount of traffic. So, I'm just kind of backing up what you say. I don't know if really taking away parking spots is
We can provide more, just if it's necessary, to add more parking lot. We are willing to provide more parking spaces.
Just in relation to where you're putting the dumpster, if, again, Mr. Toromina can come up with an idea, I'm fine with that, but that was consistent both ends of the day, so that's a consistent problem, I would say.
Excellent. Thank you, Mrs. McHugh. Any other questions or comments for our petitioner? Okay, is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak for or against this item? We do have one person. So, sir, if you'd just take a seat for one moment, we'll let our resident here speak, and then we'll get you back. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is
Mic
Melody
down.
Doyle.
Thanks.
I live at 28617 Dover Street, so my house backs directly up to the fence you're talking about. When they first put it in, I guess this isn't my reason for coming, but when they first put in the fence, I spoke to the owners, and a brick wall was addressed. He said it was too expensive, so the privacy fence was what we decided on. That being said, that's with the building and parking very far away from my home. So you said 8 feet, right? The wall would be 8 feet?
In height,
Yeah,
5 to 7 feet.
5 to 7 feet in height. Okay. My original reason for coming is because that field floods. It pours over the sidewalk, which I salt all the time because, like you said with the dumpsters, there are students who live in the trailer park across the street who all walk to Cleveland. So that road is very walked on that side of the street. But my concern was moving the parking and everything back. That water is now gonna go into my backyard. So what would be the plan for, I wish I took a picture of it the other day when it rained. It was like a lake. What is gonna be the plan to fix the drainage issue?
That's a good question, Mr. Toromina. Do you know if there's any requirement that they add additional stormwater management?
Yeah, so, while it wasn't addressed in the engineering department's response letter, I would expect that as this goes through the permitting process, that some degree of stormwater management would have to be engineered for at least the addition and the expanded parking area. And what that means is they would have to create a storage, whether it's in the form of a basin or it's developed underground using conduits or pipes, but some amount of stormwater collection and storage would be necessary for the site. How that impacts the surface drainage, though, I'm not sure. Those issues are usually reviewed at the time they look at these stormwater management systems, so that if there's a need to address those, then that'll be done. So I can't fully answer that question until, it is something that is done at a later stage in the engineering and review process. So, but it's obviously an important one.
Definitely, yeah. We're not engineers here, but it is common if a property owner wants to expand the footprint of a building or a parking lot, change the dynamics of how water flows. There usually is a review process that our engineering department will go through to make sure that they're not making a problem worse, especially as it comes to the neighbors. So it's a requirement that property owners keep their stormwater on their site and then release it at a controlled rate into the system, so.
Okay, and then you said you were by there yesterday at 10 and 5?
This was a couple weeks ago.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, usually
A
there's
week
not.
ago, I guess.
Usually there's not that many cars there. I was gonna say, if you said yesterday, it's because they're starting to redo that parking lot. But I agree that they need more parking. I mean, and because they do have cars, parked on the street. I'm glad that the business is there and, it's not empty like it was, when I first moved in, bought the property. But yeah, my two biggest concerns is the water and then the dumpster, because like you said, the kids and everyone walk there.
I think Mr. Ventura has a question for you.
So I'd like to be clear on your preference or your position with regard to the fence. Given that the parking is gonna move back there and its potential, the potential exists for the dumpster to move back there somewhere, albeit screened by landscaping.
I'd like it as tall as possible. I mean, especially when you're backing something up now that's gonna be, you know, right on my property.
So you'd like the masonry fence?
If it's taller than 6 feet,
Well, that's 5'7" is the ordinance, and so it can be 6 feet, I guess. I just clear that,
I would appreciate a 7-foot tall wall.
as opposed to the fence you've got now.
I know, and it goes, yeah, I know my neighbors would too, but she couldn't come, she's,
Thank you, Mr. Wilshaw.
Thank you, Mr. Ventura. It's good to get your thoughts on that, because you are obviously very close to this, so we care about that very much. Mr. Bonjero?
Mr. Chair, just to add a little more info for the retention pond, I did speak with the engineering department today, and they said absolutely it's gonna be required, so.
okay, perfect, because it floods and then runs down the fence and then just,
Yeah,
and stays there for days.
it will, they said for sure it's gonna be required.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, great, thank you, Mr. Bonjero. Any other questions for our resident here? We'll let her go. Okay, thank you very
Thank you.
much for coming.
Have a good night.
You too. Any other people in the audience wishing to speak for or against this item? If not, our petitioner's representative is free to come forward if he has any closing comments he'd like to make. Give you the last word, sir.
The last word, I think the detention for the storm or the design of storm line, storage of the water, storm water has to be provided in the process of the approving the site plan. But again, I think the requirement of a wall, like he said, maybe we have already an agreement, the first petition. I don't know how we're gonna go back and disapprove the first step, remove the fence and replace it with a brick wall. Maybe we can resolve other issues, but that fence was already a part of an agreement from just for the part of the agreement of the owner and the owner of the residential.
So you're saying that the fence that's existing there was an agreement made between
Yeah,
your
the owner and the
okay.
resident.
So you would not be,
I will
willing to
discuss
put a
the
wall
issue
there?
with the owner, but like I said, it's really hard to replace it with a brick wall. And we're gonna take care of the storm system, which is a lot of cost. It is costly for the expansion of the 1,200 square feet. But like I said, we think that the brick wall, it's really, the fence works as a brick wall, or a privacy fence. The privacy fence works as a screening for the residential area.
okay, well, we'll see what happens. Is there any other comments? Okay. Any other questions for our petitioner? If there's none from any of the commissioners, I think we're all set then. We'll close the public hearing. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
And a motion is in order.
Chairman.
Mr. Ventura.
I'm going to offer approving resolution, and I'm going to modify what's printed here a little bit. That this request to expand the veterinary clinic at 28450 Joy Road shall be approved, subject to the following conditions. Number one, that the site and landscaping plan identified as S1, dated June 22nd, 2021, prepared by professional consulting company, is hereby approved and shall be adhered to. Number two, that the site's enclosed trash dumpster area shall be relocated to a more convenient and functional location on the site that provides that the trash collection company can access the dumpster conveniently and effectively, and that the dumpster enclosure itself is screened to the extent possible from the surrounding residential areas. The three walls of the trash dumpster area shall be constructed out of building materials that shall complement that of the building, and the enclosure gates shall be of solid panel steel construction of durable, long-lasting solid panel fiberglass. Number three, that all disturbed lawn areas, including rights-of-way, shall be sodded in lieu of hydro seeding. Number four, that the building elevation plans identified as A5 dated June 24, 2021, prepared by the professional consulting company incorporated, is hereby approved and shall be adhered to, provided, however, that the rear of the front parapet wall with the central feature is modified to eliminate or obscure the bracing construction. Number five, that all rooftop mechanical equipment shall be concealed from public view on all sides by screening that should be of compatible character, material, and color to the other exterior materials on the building. Number six, that all light fixtures shall not exceed 20 feet in height and shall be shielded to minimize glare and trespassing onto adjacent properties or roadways. Number seven, that the operation of the subject use shall not include the overnight boarding or care of animals. Number eight, that all animal remains, medical and animal waste shall be properly disposed of. Number nine, that adequate soundproofing shall be installed to the extent necessary to ensure the elimination of all noise from the building. 10, that the use of open or outdoor runways, kennels, or pennels are prohibited. Number 11, that only conforming signage is approved with this petition, and any additional signage shall be separately submitted for review and approval by the Zoning Board of Appeals. Number 12, that no LED light band or exposed neon shall be permitted on the site, including but not limited to the building or around the windows. Number 13, that for the north property line where a protective wall is required, the petitioner shall have the option of either erecting a protective wall, going to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a temporary wall variance, or have the wall permanently waived by the substitution of a greenbelt. Such substitution shall be subject to approval by the Planning Commission and City Council. Number 14, that the specific plans referenced in this approving resolution shall be subject to inspection department at the time the building permits are applied for, and number 15, pursuant to section 9.10 of ordinance number 543, the zoning ordinance of the City of Livonia, this approval is valid for a period of 1 year only from the date of approval by the City Council, and unless a building permit is obtained, the approval shall be null and void at the expiration of said period.
Mr. Ventura, before we get a support for that, would you be willing to entertain a provision regarding the repair of the north wall and gas meter area that Mr. Caremagno
A
referenced?
good addition, yes, it would.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Wilshaw.
All right, very good. I just want to make sure we got everything that was discussed tonight. Is there support for that motion?
Support.
We have a motion by Mr. Ventura, supported by Mr. Caremagno, to approve with a number of provisions. Is there any discussion on that motion? Everyone clear on what we're approving? Excellent, very good. If there's no discussion, a roll call can be taken.
Mr. Ventura.
Aye.
Magna votes aye. Mrs. Smiley.
Aye.
Mrs. McHugh.
Aye.
Mr. Bonjero.
Aye.
Mr. Long.
Aye.
And Chairman Wilshaw.
Votes aye, motion passes. We'll go to City Council with an approving recommendation. Thank you for coming this evening, sir, and we wish you luck with your expansion.
And if the resident could contact the planning department, we can explain the condition as it relates to the
fence?
to the wall and
The
the
wall versus
yes,
fence, okay.
the barrier.
All right, so she's nodding, so she'll get in contact with you, and thank you very much.
What was your name, sir?
It's Mr. Tormina, Taormina. You can just contact the planning department. Thank you. Good evening. And that takes care of item number 2. We move on to item number 3 on our public hearing section.
Petition 2021-07-02-12, submitted by Quick Stop, Inc., requesting approval of all plans required by sections 11.03A and 18.58 of the City of Livonia zoning ordinance number 543 as amended, in connection with a proposal to add fuel pumps and operate a gasoline service station at 37405 Ann Arbor Road, located on the southwest corner of Ann Arbor and Newburgh Roads in the northeast quarter of section 31.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Mr. Tormina.
Thank you. Again, this is a request to add fuel pumps and operate a gasoline station at an existing retail plaza. This is located at the southwest corner of Ann Arbor Road and Newburgh Road. The zoning of the property in question is C2 general business, which does allow for gas stations, however, subject to waiver use approval under the provisions set forth under section 1103A of the zoning ordinance. The existing multi-tenant retail building on this property measures roughly 16,500 square feet in size. The unit where the gas station would operate was most recently occupied by a family video. This space measures roughly 4,000 square feet. It's located in the northeast corner of the building. Big B Coffee is the other main tenant, which is on the east side of the building in the space that is about 1,477 square feet in size. There are 2 other units identified as lease area A and lease area B, which are currently vacant. Those combined measure roughly 6,360 square feet. And then in the northwest corner of the building, the plans show 3 separate spaces totaling about 2,800 square feet being used for storage purposes. Going back to the map, the surrounding neighborhood includes to the south and west of this property, single-family homes, which are zoned R1, one-family residential. To the west is another retail building zoned C1, local business. North across Ann Arbor Road, of course, is the lake, and then to the east across Newburgh Road are residential homes and a church, including the parking lot for that church. This is the proposed site plan. The only real change would be the addition of the fuel pumps as well as an overhead canopy. The storefront as well as the main entrance would face north towards Ann Arbor Road. There are 5 fuel pumps shown on the plan. These would be located between the building and Ann Arbor Road. The pumps would impact roughly 26 parking spaces. Vehicles would continue to enter and exit the site using the existing driveways on both Ann Arbor and Newburgh Roads. The pumps would be covered by a canopy that measures roughly 28 feet by 129 feet. The height of the canopy would be 18 feet, and it would be located roughly 33 feet from the right-of-way of Ann Arbor Road and 40 feet from the right-of-way of Newburgh Road. The floor plan that was included with the application shows that the area that would be used for the gas station would be subdivided into several spaces, including a large display and sales area. That would be the convenience store. It also includes coolers. There would be a sales counter, restrooms, of course, as well as an office, a utility room, as well as a janitor's closet. In terms of parking, required parking is based on the size of the retail area at a ratio of 1 space for every 150 square feet of usable floor area. Based on the overall building size, 89 parking spaces are required. With the elimination of the parking spaces needed for the fuel pumps, the site would only have 81 spaces remaining. This would represent a deficiency of roughly 8 spaces and would therefore require approval of the Zoning Board of Appeals. We have not reviewed this petition relative to signage, but there are special signage requirements afforded to gasoline stations. There are no other site changes or improvements that are proposed as part of this petition. With that, Mr. Chairman, I would like to read out the correspondence.
Yeah, please.
And I'm going to read out the departmental correspondence. I'll note that we received several letters of objection, 11 in total, and each one of the planning commissioners should have copies of all of those letters. So
We do.
I will not read all of those, but I will read out the department correspondence.
Yes, we do have those, and those will be included in our packets in our minutes.
And they will be included in the record, that's correct.
Thank you.
So the first letter is from our engineering division dated July 20th, and it reads, in accordance with your request, the engineering division has reviewed the above referenced petition. We have no objections to the proposed project at this time. The subject parcel is assigned the range of addresses of 37401 through 37409 Ann Arbor Road, with the overall parcel being assigned the address of 37405 Ann Arbor Road. The existing building is currently serviced by public water main, sanitary sewer, and storm sewer. The submitted drawings do not show any proposed changes to the service leads, so we cannot comment on impacts to the existing systems at this time. It should be noted that the developer will need to meet current engineering requirements for the proposed project, including stormwater detention per the Wayne County Stormwater Ordinance. This department will be able to make a formal review of the proposed improvements when detailed engineering plans are submitted for permitting. Also, the developer may be required to obtain a permit from the Michigan Department of Transportation should any work occur within the Ann Arbor Road right-of-way. That letter is signed by David Lear, Assistant City Engineer. We have a letter of no objection coming from the Department of Public Safety, Livonia Fire and Rescue. That letter is signed by Greg Thomas, Fire Marshal, and it's dated July 20th. A letter of no objection coming from the Division of Police, dated July 23rd, and signed by Scott Shapansky, Sergeant of the Traffic Bureau. Next is a letter from the Department of Finance that reads, I have reviewed the address connected with the above noted petition. The following amounts are due to the City of Livonia. Unpaid water and sewer charges currently due on 8/10/21, $625.22. That letter is signed by Connie Cumpula, Chief Accountant. Next, a letter of no objection from the Department of Treasurer's Office, or the Office of the Treasurer. That letter is dated July 21st, and it's signed by Linda Shield, Treasurer of the City of Livonia. And that is the extent of the departmental correspondence. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Mr. Tormina. Any questions for our planning staff? Mr. Ventura?
Mr. Termina, if there were no gas station, no gas pumps associated with this petition, and they wanted to operate a quick stop there, they could do that without showing up here, is that right?
Yeah, and the convenience store would be treated as a permitted use with no need to come before this body or city council for that matter. It's strictly the fueling operation that requires the special approval.
And there's no operation of a quick stop there now? It's just an empty building?
I'm not aware of any operation. I believe that space is currently unoccupied.
Thank you very much. Any other questions for our planning staff? If not, there's a petitioner in our audience. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dennis Benashak. I'm representing Jamil Al-Hadis, the developer. I work for D&M Site, 401 Balsam Avenue, Carlton, Michigan.
Great.
And I'm here asking for a waiver use approval. The drawing shows pretty much what we intend to do. It's a relatively simple reuse of the property in terms of the engineering that I typically do. Basically, if you look at the plan, what looks like concrete in the drawing is actually a concrete pad that goes directly under the canopy, so it represents the extent of the canopy. And we'll have to take a little bit of the bid out in order to regrade the parking lot. And on the right-hand side there, that big rectangle is where the tank is scheduled to go, the underground tank. Currently, we're in discussions with Laura in Lansing, the Licensing and Regulation Bureau. The catch basin in that area, we don't know if we're going to be able to leave the tank right where we've got it. We might have to push it over to the setback line in order to make sure we have enough clearance for all of our lines. But in terms of what's there, we're really not going to be changing much. Obviously, the canopy is going to be a big change. But physically altering the parking lot, you can see what the extents are going to be. So we're looking for engineering to give us a little bit of time to get everything in place once we figure out where we're gonna go with our catch basins, and we'll take care of the stormwater requirements at that time. As far as signage, we're going to utilize the existing sign, and I'm sure that'll come up when we apply for the sign permit, what we're gonna be allowed to do. And the remaining businesses that are there are going to stay. As far as the floor plan goes, the architect was a bit hasty, and there's the coolers. I don't know if do you know, Mr. Termina, if the coolers were removed from the floor space count for determining parking?
The answer to that, if I may, Mr. Chairman,
Termina.
is no. That is factored, the usable floor area is factored as a percentage of the gross floor area, so we take 80% of the gross in calculating the parking. So I guess the answer is yes and no. We didn't specifically look at the cooler area, but we did factor in a 20% area for non-usable floor area.
Okay,
Thank you. I didn't realize you used the 80% formula. That makes it a lot easier. And if you have any questions?
All right, and are you the engineer for this?
Yes, I am.
Okay, very good. So we'll see what questions we have. I'm guessing there may be some operational questions and so on along the way, so if you need to get some of your other companions up here, we'll get to that point when we get there.
Thank you.
Mr. Bonjero?
Oh.
Question.
Go ahead.
So the businesses that are there are staying, Big B and the other one?
As far as I know, yes.
Okay, there was some confusion about that last week.
Still
that
is.
They weren't gonna be in there. I don't know, somebody's got an answer maybe.
I'm seeing one nodding, yes, no. Please. That way our vast TV audience can hear you. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. My name is Jason Uhas, 500 Snapdragon Lane in DeWitt, Michigan. We own the building, and we were just given notice this week. Actually, I think it came up last week, and so we looked into it. Big B is vacating and leaving that, so that will leave, without our potential tenant coming in, the building will be fully vacant since Family Video vacated.
Okay.
Okay,
Mr. Bonjero?
thanks.
All right. Any other questions for our petitioner?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Caremagna?
I've got a question. I think at the study session, as I remember last week, as these video stores went out of business, your company owned the buildings or purchased the buildings. What has happened to other family video stores?
Sure.
Throughout the state?
Yeah, so we have about approximately 750 buildings that we own and operate, and the video industry did not survive COVID, and so they're all gone now. And so the one family still owns all of the buildings, hence the name Family Video, and so we are releasing them and looking for new tenants. This building in particular is significantly larger than our average. If you've seen them around the metro area, they're generally 6,000 or 7,000 square feet. So this one is significantly larger than our other ones. Many of them are being filled by dollar stores. Similar use, I think, that came up a minute ago, if it was just staying straight retail to retail. They come in there, we have filled over 150, closer to 175 of our buildings with straight Dollar General, just your run-of-the-mill dollar stores that are taking the buildings and opening up because it's a straight retail to retail use. We have some medical that's going in that will take maybe 2,500 square feet. We're seeing a lot of what Jamil is proposing to do here, where we're demising the video space. 7,000 square feet is not ideal for a lot of candidates, so they'll take 2,000 or 4,000 square feet, and we'll create some other suites, which is what we intend to do here. He'll have a little storage area, but that will actually create another suite. And then there's, if I look at it, rear area B and A are actually, they're not separated. Right now, that is one big open L-shaped space. They're not two separate suites in there. It is all one big open space currently. And to my knowledge, we've not had any tenants in there, and it's all undeveloped. It's all just raw space that's in there. So Big B and Family Video were the only ones only tenants that we've had in there, and they're vacating as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Caremagna. Any other questions for our petitioners? Mrs. McHugh?
I don't know who would be the one to answer this, but I think this was touched on in the last study session. But can you confirm that you're going to be selling beer and wine? I can answer that. I figured we would.
Here's going to be the operator of the site.
Jamil Hadis, 3169 Hatherley Avenue, Flint, Michigan. No, we won't. Like, we don't sell beer and wines at any other locations.
Okay, so no alcohol.
No.
Okay, thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
All right, thank you, Mrs. McHugh. Any other questions or comments? We'll get there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions from any of the commissioners? Ms. McHugh?
I'm sorry, I
You
could have
still have
caught
the
you when
floor.
you were up there. I was just waiting until you sat down to ask.
Get your exercise that way.
I don't think we're overly familiar with Quick Stop and how that works. Is it a brand, are you having a different brand of gas there? Is it, how is that signage work, the titling?
It's like a marathon.
Okay.
Marathon gas with just selling cigarettes and pop and just like a convenience store.
So it'll be a Marathon station, is what you're saying?
Marathon or Sunoco, depends
Okay,
on.
one of those two, okay.
Hours of operations, if you need, just, that area is just high, like traffic, I think it's just, working people travel on those roads, so it's just, I'm assuming from 5 to 11.
Okay. Fine.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for any of our petitioners here? All right, if there's no other questions, we'll give you an opportunity to sit down for a moment, and we'll hear from our audience members. If there's anyone else in our audience wishing to speak for or against, you're welcome to come forward. Please come forward to the podium so we can hear you. And you're welcome to line up. And again, because there are a number of folks waiting to speak, a lot of chivalry there. That's a good thing. Again, just start with your name and address.
Rick Bezzi at 37921 Ann Arbor Road.
Okay.
I'm the dealer, the mobile dealer on Ann Arbor Road and Ann Arbor Trail. I've been there for about 20 years. It's just this petition, it's just way too close to my gas station. It's been tough, staying in business and trying to stay in business for the last 20 years. There's gas stations, within a half mile in every direction there. Yeah, too many. And the thing is, approving this one could just mean another one going out of business. I mean, that's all I had to say.
Great, thank you, Mr. Bazzi, appreciate that. We'll let the person behind you speak, or the gentleman. Good evening, sir.
Hi, I'm Tom Idson. My wife and I, Devin, live at 9721 Newburgh. In response to what he said, we have also sent an email to the council asking you to reject this request. Adding to that is our driveway is a half a mile to Joy Road. There's a Marathon station there. To the west, there is a mobile station next to McDonald's. To the east, there is a Shell and a Sunoco. So there are 4 gas stations within a half-mile radius of our house. We would like to see the property developed, but we believe that a gas station is not needed in this area. Please reject this request. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good evening,
Hi,
ma'am.
my name is Kim Peterson. I live at 9817 Newburgh, directly next door to the property in question. We don't need a quick stop. We don't need a gas station. We have 7-Eleven on the other corner for a convenience store. We don't need any more traffic on that corner. We don't need any more criminal activity in our neighborhood or trash on our lawns to be picked up. But most of all, the most important thing to me is, besides these issues and the inconvenience that we have and all the traffic, the underground gas tanks will be put in less than a few hundred feet from Newburgh Lake. Newburgh Lake has been in trouble for years. our, the Friends of Newburgh, the Friends of Rouge, and our own Parks and Recreation and other environmental groups have been working tirelessly for years and investing money in cleaning up the lake, and it's working. Our wildlife is coming back. These tanks, any spillage from the gas station and any leaks from the tank will go directly into Newburgh Lake and the Rouge River. Everything is coming back. We don't want to disturb this. I'm afraid of what we're going to do. I even have a female pheasant that took up residence in my backyard this year, and she's getting very big. It's like having a huge chicken in your backyard. When I first moved into the house some 20-some-odd years ago, it was the IRS that owned the building. They were mean, but they were quiet. So our trash and the criminal element, a couple months ago, we had a police chase and a crash in the parking lot next door and across the street. The two people that were driving the stolen truck that the police were chasing jumped out and ran through our backyards. We have enough activity going on in the neighborhood. This is mainly a residential neighborhood, and we're tired of the mess. And we really are concerned about the effects on the lake, the potential effects on the lake. Besides the spillage and everything, there's also the question of air quality in and around a gas station. We have to worry about the wildlife for our future. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello, welcome.
So, my name is Rachel Holgate, and I live at 9804 Horton. And I'm roughly about 4 houses, but I'm kitty corner to where this is. I can't tell. Mine is, I can't tell what I'm bad with maps.
We can see it.
Right here.
Yep.
Yep. So, and then I actually go all the way out to Newburgh. So that other lot is mine as well. So when I was thinking about this going in, and I really do try to look at both sides, one common theme that kept returning to me was the future, and the future of this corner. So one of the things they have done, like she was mentioning about Newburgh Lake, they have put in a new fishing dock there, so there's a lot more fishermen. I'm seeing more kayakers there, as well as there's actually, and this wasn't mentioned, but there's a bike trail that Heinz has improved. They've added a parking lot there, and the bike trail goes right along the Rouge River. So one of the things when I think of the future of this property is, one thing is pollution. I don't know if it's true, if it's gonna be 24 hours or not, but I think of noise pollution, odor pollution, and light pollution, which is especially for people that are very close to it. But when I think of, I know I can't speak on tanks. I don't know how long they last, but one thing I do know is people aren't necessarily the neatest when they're pumping gas. So you're gonna have some type of spillage on the ground, and we've been having such heavy rains that I am concerned, because this site is very high. If you look at the surrounding areas, the homes and businesses, it's very high. And the lake being directly across, and then the Rouge being across the other street, across Newburgh, those are the low-lying areas. So if we get those heavy rains, any spillage is naturally gonna go over there. I also am concerned about the traffic. With a video store or just some other small business, you don't have such a high frequency of cars going in and out. This corner, and just to correct the gentleman, the traffic is much later than the times he was saying, because we have the Yacht Club bar across the street, and we already get a lot of noise pollution from that and a lot of traffic. I don't think if this is going to be as late as they say, or 24 hours, it's not going to help our situation at all. And then also, just to add to the crime element, she is right. I actually have on camera, the police were searching my backyard, so that kind of freaked me out a little bit at first. And then just the corner itself is a high traffic corner. You have turns from every direction, And then with it being so close to Hines Drive, we have a lot of bikers and we have a lot of walkers going both to the bike trail and to Hines Drive. It is a very hard corner to cross, and there's a lot of just physical fitness enthusiasts trying to cross that corner on their bike. They don't necessarily get off the bike. So I just think it's going to be a tough situation if we have a business that has a high frequency of in and out cars. Within 3 to 5 minutes, every single car is going to be going in and out. I just don't think it's going to help that corner.
All right. Thank you for your
Thank you.
comments. Appreciate you coming tonight. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Maria Grantham, and I also live on Horton. I fondly call that area the Bermuda Triangle because we are encountered by the three roads. I don't know if all of you got a chance to visit the site or to even read the emails that were sent to you.
We did.
Everybody did get a chance to read the emails. I actually sent 2. I have some concerns. Well, last night at, like, I don't know, it was very late when I sent my last one. But was there a traffic study done on this, in this area?
There was not.
There was not. You did a traffic study for a road that is not even nearly as busy for the veterinary place, but you didn't do it for that corner, for that intersection? I really think that should have been considered. I mean, I don't understand why one was not done. Another thing, if they're going to use those existing driveways, are you going to have no left turns? Where in turn, if there are no left turns, they are going to use Horton Street, as they already do, as a turnaround.
Cut through.
As a cut-through. I mean, there is traffic. We have, we have a small block there, but we have a large variety of people on there. We have babies to senior citizens. We take care of our block. Any given day, there's somebody out there cutting their grass, there's flowers, there's gardens in the back. Rachel has her property that goes all the way to Newburgh. Her backyard is full of a garden. I just think that this is not planned. I believe this goes against Livonia's Vision 21 plan. I understand that you were in the process of denying a car wash to be put on 6 Mile in Newburgh. That area is probably better set for a car wash, and it was denied based on the fact that it doesn't fit the plan for Vision 21 for that to be a walkable area. Well, our area is more walkable than 6 Mile in Newburgh. As Rachel said, we have people that bicycle, we have people that run. We have the high school down the street, Churchill. They use that as a route to run for their cross-country and track practices. None of this is being considered. And I really think that, as you stated also, that those 2 drives are going to stay. I don't think that's going to be a possibility. You will approve this gas station, and those driveways will have to be changed eventually because of the fact of that property is elevated. And because it's elevated, the signage, the lights, and everything else will create light pollution for that area. I really think it would be a poor choice to allow, I'm not against a business being there, but I think it would be a poor choice to have a gas station. The family video people, they do not care for this property as it should be. One of the women, or the neighbors that are directly there, her backyard, she has, I don't know if she sent pictures in her email or if she explained, she has, that there is a mess back there. This gentleman here has spoken about that the only traffic there is business traffic. Well, no, there is a lot more than business traffic. And like I said, our street, we have children that ride their bicycles in there. There's no parking on our street, so it's a very narrow road. So, I really hope and wish that you guys will take this into consideration and deny the use of a gas station. I don't know, and there are signs that people put in their neighborhoods, drive like your children live here. I ask the Planning Commission to please vote as if you live on our block.
Very good. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, my name is Whitney Booker. I live on 9808 Horton Street. I don't know why I'm up here because I think everyone else covered everything I was going to say. I was going to talk about the pollution and the concern for me is the health risk because from the kitchen window, I can literally see the family video and that whole area. And then I just redid a lot of my backyard so I could finally enjoy it. And now I'm the fumes alone from the gas station being there, like, it's really unfortunate. And again, like, people cut through our neighborhood all the time just because of how chaotic that whole area is. And so, and there's no parking, so it's super narrow. And like, I already have concerns about my dog getting out. And like, Tom actually saved my dog at one point because he did get out. But yeah, again, it was my first home. When I heard about the gas station, I was just super bummed, and I really hope that you guys don't put it in there, or don't approve of it. But anyways, thank you very much.
Well, thank you for coming. We appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
Anyone else in our audience wishing to speak?
I just want to add one thing. My husband
Ma'am, you'll have to come.
You have to come up here.
Unfortunately, you'll have to come up, so there we are.
I'm not sure if I'd be taking too many turns.
There we, everyone, oh, and it's all right.
Well, I want to speak in proxy for my husband.
Okay.
He actually was out of town for work, but one thing I do want to mention is the saturation for the businesses. And I would like to see an established, I don't know if the gentleman is still here, the Marathon Station has been there for 20 years. My husband did a search, and within 2 miles, there's actually 7 gas stations. If you go 3 miles, there's 10 gas stations. And then just thinking of the vision of Livonia, when we think of the future, we want to think of who's going to come to our area when people like I'm 51, I probably got 30 years to go. What's it going to look like in 30 years? We want to be able to attract new young people, and I think having gas stations on every single corner is not the appeal we should be going for. And I think that's my final thing I have.
Well, thank you. We certainly hope that you're going to have more than 30 years to go. We got to be positive. You have one more thought?
This will be my last
All right,
thing.
go ahead.
The proximity of this gas station goes against all of what Livonia has. Probably 90% of the gas stations in Livonia have some kind of barrier to the neighborhoods. There are high walls. They are usually surrounded by big parking lots and businesses behind those parking lots, and then the residential. So this will go against probably 90% of the gas stations that are in the city of Livonia.
Thank
So
you.
I really do hope you take that into consideration also.
Great, thank you for your comment. Is there anybody else? If not, we'll go back to our petitioner. You can make a final address to us.
Well, from a landlord standpoint, a couple things I wanted to just mention. I know some of the residents had mentioned criminal activity and trash and things. I oversee approximately about 145 former vacant video stores. Every week I'm encountering homeless people that are breaking in, sleeping in front of the building, sleeping behind them, sleeping in the dumpster enclosures, and a large amount of trash that people just publicly dump. And that's also, we're also up against that, whether he's denied or is not there, and Bigby leaves, we're gonna have a vacant building, and I think you'll actually see more crime, there will be homeless. Those things, I'm seeing them every single week at the video stores, the former video stores, where there's just a big vacant building and there's nothing going on there. With regards to the amount of traffic that Mr. Haladiz will have there, the video stores, we were printing cash for many years, and we were averaging 600 to 1,500 customer tickets, individual sales receipts a day. So the video business was a very, very strong business, all from the mid-90s until the mid-2000s, and my conversations with him, he can speak to that as he talks, but we were doing way more tickets and had much more car traffic and customer traffic in the video business than he sees in his gas station. So I just wanted to clarify a couple of those points.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Uhays. If there's no other questions or comments, is there anyone else from your team that you would like to present before we close? Thank you, sir.
I don't mean to downplay the issue of pollution, but these fiberglass tanks that are used in these gas stations today are double-walled tanks with very long lifespans. They are approved by Eagle and by EPA. So in terms of the pollution issue caused by the tank, it's almost non-existent with today's tanks. The old metal tanks that we used to have, I did enough tank replacements and removals to know that they were a problem for a long time. But currently, the new tanks don't really have that problem. As far as spills in the parking lot, We will be probably forced to install what's called a storm scepter, which is a oil separator system that will trap up to about 150 gallons of any hydrocarbons that end up in the storm sewer system. I expect this to be discussed with your engineer when we go through the storage. So we'll also have the underground storage, so if there is a leak, it'll stay in the system on the site as opposed to going out. So I don't see that much of an issue for those two items. In terms of the VS for pedestrians and for bicyclists, that is a signalized intersection. So I don't know how much safer it can be made. You know, I'm imagining there's push buttons there. I have to apologize, I haven't gone out and looked at the signalization myself, but in terms of what's going on there, you know, if there's a concern, it's something that should be addressed with MDOT as opposed to the developer, because the driveways are there and they're going to be used as they were intended. We don't want to change them because we don't want to have to deal with MDOT ourselves. So I don't see any change there unless it's being forced. So in terms of what we're doing, it's something that I wasn't expecting a whole bunch of you know, people coming up and saying that they didn't want it. This, because with the way the building is sited, the canopy would be out front. It's completely shielded from the neighborhood behind it. So putting up a canopy, you know, shading those lights, we can put cutoffs on the side so that the light does not go off site. We want to be a good neighbor. So if there's anything else?
Is there any other questions from any of the commissioners for our petitioner? I don't think so.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And with that, that'll be the final word, and I'll close the public hearing. I'm going to go to my fellow commissioners for a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Mrs. Smiley.
I'm going to make a denying resolution that the request to operate a gasoline station at 37400 Ann Arbor Road is hereby denied for the following reasons. That the petitioner has failed to comply with all general standards and requirements as set forth in sections 11.03 and 19.06 of the zoning ordinance. That the petitioner has failed to demonstrate a need in the area for this type of commercial services proposed to be operated on the subject site. That the petitioner has failed to adequately demonstrate that the site has the capacity to accommodate the proposed use. That the operation of a gas station on this site would have a negative effect upon the neighboring properties. That the proposed use would unduly tax and conflict with the established and normal traffic flow of the area. That the proposal creates significant adverse impacts on adjoining parcels, public services, and community planning efforts. That the petitioner has not sufficiently demonstrated the operation of a gasoline station would be compatible to and in harmony with the surrounding uses in the area. And that the petitioner has failed to comply with all the concerns deemed necessary for the safety and welfare of the city and its residents.
Is there support for that motion?
Support.
All right, we have a motion to deny made by Mrs. Smiley, supported by Mr. Ventura. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Long.
Mr. Tormena, there's a city ordinance requiring a written approval for residents if a new gas station wants to go in. Is that correct? And is it 65%? Am I?
It's either 60 or 65%, and I'm looking across the auditorium at Mr. Miller to see if he knows the exact. It's either 60 or 65%. That is a requirement prior to the final vote of city council. So one of the things that they would look for is the written approval of that percentage of residents within, I believe it's 300 feet or 400 feet of the subject property. They can waive that requirement. That requirement disappears under the new zoning ordinance. So it's not an issue for tonight's discussion necessarily. Clearly, it's not something that they could present to you to help supplement their argument for the gas station, but yes, it's currently a requirement, something that council would be looking at if the new ordinance is not adopted by the time it reaches them. And I think the chairman will explain what happens in the event that this,
Right.
motion is
So
successful.
if a denying resolution is passes, then it would go to city council, they can waive it, and it would be part of the, all right, so my comment, the clarification helps me, I do not have any objections to the resolution as stated. Thank you.
Okay, and if the motion is denied tonight, the petitioner will have 10 days to appeal to the council. It won't go there automatically, correct, Mr. Tormina?
That is correct. It would require the applicant to file the appeal.
Right, they'd have to appeal in writing. So, any other questions, comments about this motion before we take a roll? I don't see anything, so we'll go to Mr. Caremagno to take the roll call on a denying resolution.
Mrs. Smiley.
Aye.
Mr. Ventura.
Aye.
Mrs. McHugh.
Aye.
Mr. Mangiero.
Aye.
Mr. Long.
Aye.
Caremagno says nay. Chairman Wilshaw.
Votes aye, the motion is denied, and will, again, as I just mentioned, the petitioner will have 10 days in which to appeal the decision in writing to city council. And that's it for this item. Thank you, everyone, for coming this evening. Appreciate your comments. I'll give just one moment for some of our audience to file out before we proceed on to the miscellaneous section of our agenda.
If I may?
Yes, sir.
I'd like
Yes.
to congratulate you on the way you run your meeting. I'm a former planner from the city of Bay City. You guys are impressive.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. It's high praise. Yes, ma'am.
If they submit an appeal, will the neighbors be notified of that again?
Yes, you'll be notified just like you were for this meeting.
Correct.
So same people.
And as Mr. Long noted, because of the proximity to the gas station, if we have 65% of the people that are within 400 feet of that proposed site, how would we go about
As the ordinance currently stands, when a gas station is abutting residential property like this, there needs to be 65% of the neighboring residents sign a letter saying that they approve of that being there. And that is a process that can be waived by city council if they choose to consider that. But that's in our current ordinance. We are in the process right now of changing a whole new set of ordinances, and that provision goes away in that process. So it depends on timing if that was to happen.
Well, thank you very much for listening to us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This was my first city council, and I thought I'd be board step, but it was like so exciting.
This is just planning, this isn't city council.
Yeah, this is,
You get to council.
Run the promotion.
yeah.
Professional, and I help out in the city of Westland.
And much more entertaining.
Well, we try not to have anybody fall asleep at our meetings. Thank you. All right, we'll go to item number 4, Mr. Secretary.
Petition 2021-07-08-04 submitted by the Kroger Company of Michigan, requesting approval of all plans required by Section 18.47 and Section 18.58 of the City of Livonia zoning ordinance number 543 as amended in connection with a proposal to redevelop portions of the commercial shopping center, North Ridge Commons, including demolishing approximately 22,000 square feet of existing retail space, constructing an addition to the Kroger store measuring approximately 28,500 square feet, as well as other facade and parking lot improvements at 33523 through 33751 8 Mile Road, located on the south side of 8 Mile Road between Farmington and Gill Roads in the northeast quarter of Section 4.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Mr. Tormina.
Thank you. Again, this is a request to redevelop portions of the North Ridge Commons Shopping Center, which is on the south side of 8 Mile Road, just west of Farmington Road. The site of the shopping center is about 14.5 acres, and it consists of 4 separate buildings and a gas station. And for the purpose of this review, the overall complex has been divided into 7 parts. And let me show you what those are. Retail area 1 here is about 13,950 square feet, and It's located on the north side of the Kroger store as it exists today. The Kroger store is the second component to those 7, and that measures currently about 47,500 square feet. Then there's retail area 2 that comprises the south end of the shopping complex. This area is about 51,500 square feet. Then retail area 3 located here, which is about 8,150 square feet. That's located just south of the Kroger, existing Kroger store. Then we have the Kroger fueling facility located adjacent to 8 Mile Road. And then the 2 other components, which are not shown on this particular plan, would be the Arby's restaurant and the PNC Bank, which are both as what we'll refer to as out parcels or outlots to the overall Northridge Commons shopping complex. So not including the gas station or the outlots, the center contains roughly 121,000 square feet of gross floor area, with Kroger being the largest single tenant. So the expansion of the Kroger is going to require the removal of about 21,900 square feet of existing retail space, which is located in the southwest corner of the shopping center. And the demolition areas include about 13,700 square feet at the west end of retail area 2. So it's difficult to see here, but if you look closely at this hatched line, this is the part of retail area 2 that would come down, and then all of retail area 3. So these areas would then be replaced with an expansion of the Kroger, which is located here. You can just see the crosshatched area carefully. That area of addition is about 28,600 square feet. So once that is done, the Kroger goes from, as I indicated, about 47,540 square feet to a total of 76,160 square feet. And then the overall retail complex would increase slightly to about 127,000, just under 128,000 square feet. So a couple of features to point out on the site plan. The south end of the addition would contain the store's pharmacy, where there would be a drop-off and a pickup window, which has been added. Both the interior and as well as the exterior of the store would be completely remodeled. The main customer entrance would be centrally located along the storefront. Next to the main entrance, there would be a vestibule as well as a pickup room that would measure about 1,400 square feet, and that would be used to organize and store items for customer pickup. And then adjacent to that area, as you can see here on the plan, actually that pickup area is located on just south of the main entrance. There are 12 parking spaces that would be marked and signed, used, that would be devoted solely for the grocery pickup. And I'm going to let the petitioner and their representatives explain a little more what these operational components actually consist of. So let's get to the actual design, and this is a blow-up of what that pickup area would look like, these spaces being designated, and how the technology would operate in terms of vehicles pulling up and getting their groceries delivered. But this is something that we're seeing with many new grocery developments. This is the interior layout of the store. I'm not even going to begin to try to describe this. It is extremely complex. It involves, as you can well imagine, many components. Here's the pickup window for the pharmacy. Again, the main entry is located somewhere here on the plans. There's a large bottle return area, as I indicated, the pickup area as well. There's a Starbucks coffee or a coffee shop that's located in here as well. Many different things going on here, and again, any details can be referred to the store's representative or the Kroger representative. So the exterior of the building, this would include a number of improvements. It includes a wood finish as well as kind of silver corrugated metal panels that would frame the store's main entrance. So what we're looking at here, and I'm going to try to zoom in on this area. This obviously is the main entrance. This is that wood finish that I referred to, the silver corrugated metal panels on either side of that would frame that main entrance. You can see the dark gray pre-finished metal panels are also shown, as well as a black colored painted brick, which is located above both the bottle return as well as the pickup rooms, which are on either side of the main entrance. So they continue some of the metal panels, as well as painting the brick, as well as a combination really of other materials, including EIFS, masonry block, again, more metal panels used on the lower part of the facade. So quite a substantial change from the current architectural elevations of the building. And really, this continues along the entire east facade of the Kroger store. They're also showing the improvements along the west elevation, which is backside of the store, the north elevation, as well as the south elevation. In terms of parking, just want to point out that under the current ordinance standards, there is a deficiency of only 28 parking spaces. The good news is with the passage of the Livonia Vision 21 zoning ordinance, we recalculate parking for a site like this. Planned commercial shopping centers would have a parking requirement of one parking space for every 250 square feet of gross floor area, plus one parking space for every 75 square feet of gross floor area that is devoted to a full-service restaurant. So we had to factor in the Arby's, and I believe one other restaurant located within the shopping complex. And when you do the math there, they're required to have 582 parking spaces under the proposed new ordinance, as opposed to 674 parking spaces. So they go from a deficiency to actually having a surplus of over 64 spaces under the new zoning ordinance. And we feel that this is much more in line with the parking demand for the shopping complex. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll be happy to read out the correspondence.
Yes, please.
First is from our engineering division, dated July 20th, and it reads, in accordance with your request, the engineering division has reviewed the above referenced petition. The property associated with the project is assigned the address range of 335233 through 337518 8 Mile Road, with 33523 8 Mile being assigned the overall parcel. We have no objections to the proposed project at this time, although the following items should be addressed prior to submitting plans for site plan approvals. The submitted drawings indicate relocations of existing utilities, but do not include any calculations for proposed water and sewer demands for the proposed development. Without this information, we cannot determine impacts to the existing systems, but we estimate that impacts will be minimal. It should be noted that the developer has been in contact with this office, and they are aware of the engineering requirements for the proposed project. Stormwater detention will be required per the Wayne County Stormwater Ordinance. We will perform a full review of the utilities once full engineering drawings are submitted to this department for permitting. Please note that any work within the 8 Mile Road right-of-way, including excavations for service connections, will require permits through the Wayne County Department of Public Services. That letter is signed by David Lear, Assistant City Engineer. A letter of no objection coming from the Livonia Fire and Rescue Division, dated July 16th, and signed by Greg Thomas, City's Fire Marshal. Letter of no objection coming from the Division of Police, dated July 16th, signed by Scott Shapansky, Sergeant of the Traffic Bureau. Similar letter of no objection coming from our Department of Finance, dated July 19th, signed by Connie Cumpula, Chief Accountant for the city. And then lastly, a letter of no objection from the Office of the Treasurer, dated July 21st, and signed by Linda Shield, Treasurer of the City of Livonia. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tormina. Is there any questions for our planning staff? If not, we'll go to our petitioner. You heard after the last petition how exciting these meetings are, so you have a, you have a tall order here. You gotta keep this
Lot to
exciting.
live up to, right? Yep.
Exactly.
Good evening, Mike McPherson with Atwell. I'm the civil engineering consultant for the project. My address is 2 Town Square, Suite 700, Southfield, Michigan. I have representatives from Kroger and from the shopping center owner here tonight as well to answer any questions that may be more in their court. I think Mark did a great job introducing the project very thoroughly. We're very excited for the project. One item that I would point out, I know we talked about at the study meeting, was building materials a little bit. So we did obtain a sample board of materials.
Excellent. Yeah, you can pass that around.
Pass it around. So you guys can kind of, a little heavy. So you can see better what the proposed materials would be for the new facade. As Mark explained, it's a combination of different types of metal panels, brick, CMU, and some EPIS. So it's, the proposed elevation is a lot more in line with Kroger's current prototype, a more modern building. I think we mentioned a couple of them at the study meeting that were recently built that are similar. I don't know if you had a chance to take a look at them as they're more across town, but feel it's a very nice looking building when complete. I acknowledge the comments from engineering. We have spoken with them in detail. We understand what needs to be incorporated into the engineering plans, and we'll prepare them and get those submitted for all the required reviews. Beyond that, I guess I'll just open it up to any questions you guys may have from any standpoint.
All right, thank you, Mr. McPherson, and thank you for the sample board. That's always helpful, and it gives us something to throw if we need to. But I don't think we'll have to do any of that tonight. Is there any questions for our petitioner? Well, we have Mr. Long and then Mr. Ventura.
Okay, thank you. So you'll be going to 76,000 square feet if this is approved. How does that compare to the Haggerty store and the 5 Mile store? And then what would be the differences in what's sold here compared to there?
Haggerty and 5 Mile, do you know how big that one is, Garrett? I'm not familiar.
5 Mile, Merriman.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that one, so I'm not sure.
Or
So,
6 Mile, right? I said 5 Mile, but,
Haggerty, 5
yeah, 6 Mile and Haggerty.
so what I can say is that is that if that's a new store, not an expansion, the typical new stores are around 90,000 square feet. There are a few that were built that were bigger. They're branded as marketplace stores. If you've seen one of those are like 120,000 square feet. But most of the new stores are around 90,000, which is where, Kroger wants to be to meet current market demands and have all the items for their customer convenience and everything they want to provide. So with this expansion, they gets them to just over 76,000 square feet, which is basically as big as we can fit on this particular site. And as you can see with the floor plan that was provided, they're going to rearrange and redo pretty much the entire interior. I will say, I won't pick apart this floor plan. I'm not the architect, but I will say the orange is new, and the green is existing. So you can see that 99% of this floor plan is orange. So it's going to be basically a brand new store on the inside, and all new. All new shelving and coolers and everything essentially to bring it in line with kind of the more current standards.
And the current store, it will remain open while the renovation is taking place?
Yes. The intent is to remain open and operational, and obviously we'll have to do that in a carefully staged manner. That'll be detailed more on building plans and engineering documents.
Looking forward to the arrival of the new store. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Long. And the other store, I think, that's in the area that a lot of people think of when they think of Kroger is 5 in Merriman. Yeah. That may have been what you were thinking of. So I don't know if you know the size of that store either.
I do not off the top of my head. I'm sorry.
Okay. I know it's a very well occupied store, though. Mr. Ventura?
I'm looking at this area that Mark has up on the screen right now, and the adjacent, Mark, if you could zoom out a little bit, the adjacent pharmacy pickup window on the extreme south end of the addition. And I guess my question is, or maybe you can explain to us how traffic works down there
Sure.
with the cars pulling in and pulling out for pickup.
Yep.
Then how do the parking spaces function that are south of that pickup area?
Yeah, so
And what's the traffic flow to the pickup window, and how does that all work with the pedestrian traffic that you would have? Or would you have pedestrian traffic down there? Or is it your intent that everybody stay in their car in the parking places? I mean,
Yeah.
I'd kind of like to understand what's going on.
Yeah, yeah. So, I guess first with the pickup spaces, yes, when you come to do a pickup, you stay in your vehicle. So you do not leave your vehicle. You'll pull up into one of the designated spaces, and there's either via an app or a phone number, you let the store know that you've arrived.
So the customer's gonna stay in his car.
Customer stays in his car.
So then you have an employee.
Employee comes out on you can see the designated kind of crosswalk, adjacent to the numbered spaces there. Yep. They'll be coming across there. There'll be a designated spot, and they'll come and they load the groceries into your vehicle that you've ordered, via an app on generally your phone or tablet or whatnot. You get a designated time slot, right? It's usually an hour long. You say, I'm gonna pick them up on Tuesday between 2 and 3, and that's when you pull into one of these spaces, you let them know that you've arrived. They've already have processed your order. They have it in that pickup area within the building, and an employee brings it out, places it in your car, and off you go. So that's kind of the intent of the pickup. There is
So the only pedestrian traffic you're gonna have down there are gonna be the Kroger
employees. Yep.
bringing up.
That's correct. That's correct, yeah. There are a few standard parking spaces, like you pointed out, that are south of that pickup area. So, there is a potential that there could be a pedestrian, walking from those spaces. I envision those more as probably employee spaces, things like that. Those are less desirable if you're gonna be running into the store for anything, because the main entrance is obviously pushed off to the north, so those are gonna be the last spaces filled. Yeah, and then the pharmacy, if you had a question about that, so that's a single lane drive-through. You can see it's on the south end of the building. A car could approach from either the front or the rear of the building. They can make either turn. They could come in and do a 180. There's plenty of room there. That is a typical drive-through window type service, like at any other Kroger or CVS or something to that effect, if you've been through those. Usually there's not a whole lot of stacking involved with those, because you've obviously usually pre-ordered your subscriptions, and you're there to pick them up. It's a quick transaction, and you would pull out towards the front and decide which direction that you're going to be heading home, and either turn left or turn right. So.
I guess one final question.
Yes.
Is there a walk-up window?
For the pharmacy?
Yeah.
No, there's not. No walk-up. So you'd have to go inside the store. If you're going to walk up to pick up a prescription, there would be a counter inside the store, but not from
Yeah,
the
the store
exterior.
that Mr. Wilshaw mentioned at 5 Mile and Merriman has an outside.
Gotcha. Yeah, okay.
So you're not gonna have that here.
No.
All right, thank you for that explanation, and again, I'm with Mr. Long, we're happy to see this here.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Ventura. Mr. Bonjero?
Just a quick question, any final, determination on what's gonna happen with Scrappy Chick and Astoria?
Bill?
Good evening, Mr. Eisenberg.
Good evening.
We'll let you.
Bill Eisenberg, Grand Sackwood Properties, 28 to 470 13 Mile Road, Farmington Hills. I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Well, back at the study meeting, I know you had said that you were gonna relocate Scrappy Chick, the existing tenant, but you weren't sure about Astoria, if they were gonna renew. I just didn't know if you had.
You know, actually, they did call today after they received their termination notice.
Funny how that happens.
And they are looking at the one space I do have available on the north side of the center. So they're touring tomorrow. I'd like to keep them, you know, they're good people, so we'll see
Thanks.
what happens.
Thank you.
Great, thank you, Mr. Bonjero. Any other questions for our petitioner? Ms. Smiley?
One quick one. Approximately how long would this transformation take?
Construction? Yeah, construction will take roughly about a year, about 12 months, especially since we're gonna keep the existing store open, so it would be constructed in phases. And as you can see, the interior of the building is gonna be completely renovated, so around 12 months for construction.
Thank you, and thank you for this fantastic renovation.
Welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Smiley. Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Mr. Tormina?
Just a question for the petitioner. Actually, two questions. One is, any changes to the back of store operation for the Kroger? In term primarily related to the service receiving areas. And then secondly, for existing retail area one, any changes to the facade as it affects that portion of the retail area?
Yeah, okay.
I guess that would be a question for Mr. Eisenberg.
Yeah, I can answer your first one, Mark. So, right now, no, there's really no changes going on with like the truck docks and delivery areas in the back, other than you can see that there's some elevation changes, some painting, some other little upgrades going on. But as far as the operations, they're still gonna remain with the same number of truck docks in their same position, with the same, basically truck maneuvering. The compactor is gonna stay in the back where it is now for trash. I will say that there is going to be, and it's noted on the plan, there will be an emergency generator added back in that area in the case of a power failure. And also we anticipate, and we're still working through it, but we're probably gonna have to upgrade the transformer and the switch cabinet that exists back there for the additional power demand for the store. But as far as functionality along the rear, then nothing is planned to change. As far as retail one, Bill, for facade renovations?
Yes. We've asked our architect, Rogboy Associates, to take a look at the Kroger elevation and then try to complement that on the north side. As you're probably aware, we've been cleaning up the shopping center ever since we purchased it, and this is really an exciting opportunity for us to really finish off the center. And I can't tell you how excited we are about it.
Thank you, Mr.
I can attest with what Mr. Eisenberg has said. He and I have been working on this for several years, discussing with Kroger opportunities for the expansion. So this is great news, because without them, you know, that would leave a huge hole in the shopping complex. Just one last question regarding the generator. Again, that's an emergency generator. It would operate under power failure conditions. It does require testing periodically. Can you explain what that typically involves and how that noise would be handled?
Yeah, you know, honestly, Mark, I'm not sure about the operation. I know in typically of these generators, a couple times a month need to run for 30 minutes, and it's a timed thing. I don't know, Garrett, if you know if there's a typical Kroger time or when these operate, but they have to be run periodically to make sure they're functioning. And the only time they'd be running for any period of time is in the event of power failure. It will be within an enclosure that will provide some sound deadening, and obviously it will screen it so you don't see a generator just sitting there. But I don't know if you have any more info on the operations of the generator.
Garrett Foley, the Kroger Co., 40393 Grand River Avenue, Novi, Michigan. Typically, we exercise them once a week, and then we can pick a time that isn't as impactful on the neighbors. Like you said, we'll have the enclosure and everything to deaden the sound. But yeah, it's usually, like you said, about a half-hour runtime once a week.
Once a week?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any other questions from any of our commissioners? Mr. Caremagna?
On the north side of the building, looking at it from the east, are those garage doors?
They are, yeah, so they're similar to garage doors, yes. They're for the recycling center.
So what's the thought behind them? You open them up in the summertime? What is the, what's the thought there?
Yep, I
Mark,
believe that.
from the other way.
Yeah, the other side.
It's the east facade, the north end of the east
Yeah,
facade.
it's
Is it this one that you're referring to?
No, the east, Mark, from the east.
Oh,
carts. Yeah,
Top picture.
top one to the right-hand side
Yeah.
at the top.
gotcha. I'll get there.
Yep,
Yeah, those guys.
yep.
So what's the thought with the garage doors? What happens there?
So what we're trying here is try to test out a new concept here, is behind those garage doors are gonna be the timer machines for recycling. So you would open those up during the hours of operation to where a customer can come out there on the sidewalk and they do their recycling, and all the unloading of the timer machines is done in the back to have less impact on the customer as they're working there. So, garage doors come up during the day. I don't know if you guys have seen an example of this, would be like the Myers in Lansing. They have kind of a similar concept to that we're just giving that a try on this Kroger to see if that will be a concept that works better for our customers.
Where does Kroger run that now? They got a place they run that, or you just? copy
This
the
will be
Meyer?
the first one that we're trying this at.
Meyer and Lansing?
Will it only stay open during good weather, or will it be heated in there and open in the
We
wintertime?
intend to put heat lamps in it for the winter, so yeah, meant it's open year-round.
So customers come in there, they access through those doors.
Yes, the doors will pretty much just be open throughout the whole day. It's not like an open, close. Open during operations hours, closed when we're closed.
Okay, thank you.
I do have one last question. I apologize.
Go ahead, Mr. Trevino.
Is this pickup area restricted to employees only?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I figured, because that's what's serving the pickup, the 12 spaces.
Correct.
But there is, I believe, 2 ingress and egress doors at the front now. That the new vestibule will have multiple sets of doors to go in and out of, correct?
Yeah, on either side of that pickup area, correct.
Yeah. So one of the issues with that store now is that essentially your second entrance and exit door was turned into a customer pickup staging area. It created a bottleneck for safety for people to come in and out of the building, so.
Yeah, the pickup area will be completely separate from the main customer entrance. The pickup area will be, pickup entry into the building will be only for the employees bringing the pickup items in and out.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from any of our commissioners? And just out of curiosity, do you have a cost estimate of what this project is as far as the investment that's being made? This is a pretty significant investment.
I'll say it's still being finalized, but we're looking at around 16 million.
Yeah, okay, very good. Yeah, this is a very, very sizable investment and very significant upgrade to this property, so we appreciate that. Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak for or against, feel free to come forward. We'd like to hear from you as well.
How you doing?
Hi, good evening, sir.
I know it's late. Everybody wants to leave. My name is Jeff Salai. I own one of the units. And during all this, I'm one of the ones that the guy said he was gonna kick me out in the curb because he don't need me no more. I've been there 31 years. One of the oldest Coney Islands in Livonia, besides Senate. And I there 4 years when they took over. They never asked me for a lease or nothing. Matter of fact, I thought I was under a lease because before they took over, the old management had me sign papers saying I'm part of the lease because otherwise they couldn't sell it to these guys. So that was it. I've never met the owners. I've never met the manager in 4 years or none of that stuff. Recently, my son's there most of the time. They've talked to him about trying to get me to maybe invest into the next unit next to me that moved out. But I don't have enough business to get into that unit, so I told him I'm not interested. I don't have enough business the way it is, especially after COVID. So I told him I'm not interested. So that's where the contact between me and them is. As far as anything else, they just didn't ask me if you want to relocate here or anything, except for recently they mentioned there's a half-size unit up front that I can't use. You know, they have other empty spaces over there, but they have bigger plans for them. So that's their business, but I just feel it's unfair that just because they don't need me and they want to knock the building over, they accommodated. I've been there 31 years. All these other people, I was there for 9 years before anybody moved in. That was a dead spot, like in Ohio desert. But now all those people are new and they got new things, they can't get rid of them. But they can. They could have at least offered to buy me place out or something, or help me relocate or anything. 31 years, I don't want it no more really, but that was my son's future. So that's all I got. I mean, I went through treacherous stuff through the COVID, and I asked for a little leeway. They sent me a letter saying you're gonna get out, even though the restaurant was closed by the state. So I went out and got a loan, and I paid them. And now 2 months later, 3 months later, they send me a letter. You got 90 days. I mean, I know you guys are good people. Livonia is good. But something like this is just like being in Southfield. And I know Livonia is not Southfield. I've lived around here all my life. So this is shyster work. I mean, big guy, I know. They got the right tax revenue, more money. He needs the place. But they could have done something for me too at the same time. And I just don't think it's fair. And I know if you guys know of anybody, that somebody's been there 30-some years and never missed a payment, even through hard times that you guys know a lot of people went through, and gets booted in the street just because you can, I don't think it's fair. So, I don't know. I think it's got a lot to do with too is because a lot of their systems is bad there. Sewage system is no good. Right now they're using sub pumps on manholes because they don't drain. And I don't know how that's been going on for a long time. The undergrounds in my restaurant, they're always overflowing for years. I've been complaining, and they said it was my fault, whatever. Finally, 3 months ago, I couldn't stand it anymore. The bathroom for women, I had to every couple of weeks for a long time. Women were mad at me because they had to use men's John. And I told them, you gotta fix this problem. They finally sent the plumbers, and they found out it was their problem the whole time. All the plumbing under the cement was bad. It was bad for years. So I talked to the manager. He said, well, they talked to the owner, decided they're gonna fix it. They'll have to replace the bathroom and everything under the cement. Well, guess what? The notice in the mail to get out in 90 days was a lot easier and save money. And that's exactly what happened. This hasn't even been 2 months since they told me they were gonna fix the bathrooms before this stuff with the Kroger. And now, I'm sorry, but your place has been selected to be demolished. So I'm just saying, think a little bit. Yeah. I'm nobody to fight against these guys. But it ain't fair. It ain't fair at all. And it's just greed. They need it, okay? Even if they need it, they could have moved me. They got empty spaces. The gym moved out, and they're holding on to it, see if anybody will bite. But me, it don't matter. Kick them out on the curb and run them over. It just doesn't seem fair. And I don't know. I don't know what more to say, but
All right.
I wish you would at least, in the back of your mind, think about it. It ain't gonna change nothing, but I just can't go down without at least saying my piece as long as I've been part of Livonia all these years. It just doesn't make sense to me. Thank you very much. I
Thank you,
appreciate
sir, for your comments, and we'll keep those in consideration. Is there anyone else wishing to speak to this item? If not, I will go back to the petitioner. Anything else that you would like to say before we close out? You're all set? Okay. All right, thank you. With nothing else to discuss at this point, I will go to the commission and look for a motion. And we can discuss the motion.
Mr. Chair,
Mrs. McHugh.
I'd like to offer an approving resolution that the request to redevelop portions of the commercial shopping center, Northridge Commons, at 33523 through 33751 8 Mile Road is hereby approved, subject to city council approval and the following conditions. That the overall layout plan identified as sheet number C1.2.1 and the layout plan identified as a sheet number C1.22, both dated July 13th, 2021, as revised, prepared by the Atwell Group, are hereby approved. I just lost my approving resolution.
Okay, here, I
Do you
give
have
you
it?
one.
Thank you. Thank you. That the drive-up lane for the pharmacy drop-off pickup window shall be at least 10 feet in width. All parking spaces except that the required handicap spaces shall be double striped at 10 feet wide by 20 foot in length as required. That the landscape plan identified as sheet number LS1.0 dated July 13th, 2021, as revised, prepared by Atwell Group, is hereby approved and shall be adhered to. That all disturbed lawn areas shall be sodded in lieu of hydroseeding. That underground sprinklers are to be provided for all landscaped and sodded areas, and all planted materials shall be installed to the satisfaction of the inspection department and thereafter permanently maintained in healthy condition. That the exterior elevation plan for the Kroger store, dated June 29th, 2021, prepared by CR Architecture and Design, is hereby approved and shall be adhered to. That all rooftop mechanical equipment shall be concealed from public view on all sides by screening that shall be of a compatible character, material, and color to the other exterior materials on the building. That all new pole-mounted light fixtures shall not exceed the height of 20 feet and shall be aimed and shielded to minimize stray light trespassing across the property lines and glaring into adjacent roadways. That only conforming wall signage is approved with this petition, and any additional signage shall be separately submitted for review and approval by the Zoning Board of Appeals. That no LED light band or exposed neon shall be permitted on this site, including but not limited to the building or around the windows. That unless approved by the proper local authority, any type of exterior advertising such as promotional flags, streamers, or sponsor vehicles designed to attract the attention of passing motorists shall be prohibited. That the specific plans referenced in this approving resolution shall be submitted to the inspection department at the time of the building permits are applied for, and pursuant to section 19.10 of ordinance number 543, the zoning ordinance of the city of Livonia, this approval is valid for a period of 1 year only from the date of approval by city council, and unless a building permit is obtained, this approval shall be null and void at the expiration of said period.
Is there support?
Support.
All right, we have a motion to approve by Mrs. McHugh, supported by Mrs. Smiley. Is there any discussion on the motion? If there's no discussion, if the secretary is ready, please call the roll.
Mrs. McHugh.
Aye.
Mrs. Smiley.
Aye.
Mr. Bonjero.
Aye.
Mr. Long.
Aye.
Mr. Ventura.
Aye.
Caremagna votes aye. Chairman Wilshaw.
Votes aye, motion passes. And we'll go to city council with an approving recommendation. Thank you and good luck with your project. And we have one item left on our agenda, Mr. Secretary.
Approval of the minutes of the 1,173rd public hearing and regular meeting held on July 27th, 2021.
All members were present with the exception of Mr. Caremagna. Is there a motion to approve?
I move we approve the minutes.
And supported by
Support.
Mrs. McHugh. We have a motion to approve by Mrs. Smiley, supported by Mrs. McHugh. If there's no objection, I think we can safely show 6 with Mr. Caremagna abstaining. I see no objections, so we'll do that. Takes us to the end of our agenda tonight. Is there any other business to come before the commission? Seeing none, a motion to adjourn would be in order.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Support.
We have a motion, we'll have it moved by Mr. Ventura and supported by Mr. Long. And again, if there's no objection, I think we can safely show 7 to approve the adjournment. I don't see any objections, so we'll mark that. And that concludes our meeting for this evening. I'd like to thank Livonia Television staff for their contribution to our meeting tonight. And with no further business, we are going to adjourn our meeting at 9:25 PM and wish everyone in Livonia a good night. Thank you.